Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. In this series, the ZtormTronix case review v.3. This is the Shientist with an overview aligned to works on nephrology in around some drafted works and aligned to how do young people with CKD or chronic kidney disease or CKD cope, and what are the experiences between pediatric renal services and adult renal care. This is an audio podcast aligned to a Storm Robotics RFPB, and this is aligned to an audio podcast aligned to another Storm Robotics production. In this audio podcast, there will be an overview in around the justification for why, for example, the ways of coping survey or questionnaire should be or can be can be or should be implemented in helping in helping to help answer the question around how do how do young people with chronic kidney disease cope, and the experiences between pediatric renal services and adult renal care. So to recap really on some aspects in around this and in around this so in so yeah so to so in around this one of the questions in literature has been about has been or in literature aligned to pediatric renal research or pediatric kidney research. Retrospectively, there's been literature in around quality of life. So I'm going to in this audio podcast just to recap on some aspects between sort of looking at the differences between quality of life and coping, and then a sort of an overview in around the justification for implementing or why the ways survey or questionnaire can or could help answer aspects in aligned to this works. So, in line to quality of life, the past decade, if not longer, has seen a sort of upsurge of intrigue in the measurement of quality of life, or QOL. Hundreds of generic and specific tests purporting to sort of determine different aspects of QOL have been developed. Although QOL is a validated outcome is a valid outcome, it is hampered by a variety of factors, including its conceptual vagueness, the use of assessment in around QOL can be dubious. Issues with validity and reliability, and the inappropriateness of methods and weakness of statistical analyses. The relationship or the association between QOL and coping differs. There is no consensus on the definition of there is little or no consensus on the definition of young people's QOL with or without chronic illness, and what aspects should be determined. QOL has been defined and sort of determined using markers of achievement, for example, such as marriage, jobs, and education. And it is generally accepted. It has been generally accepted that QOL is a multi-dimensional construct. There's works again by sort of Iser and team in 2000, Iser and Jenny in 2007, and Iser and Morse in 2001, and Muliners and team in 2003 retrospectively. Aligned to this now, or in regard to this, in regard to QOL, or some in somewhat sort of linking as sort of the underpinning basis in around QOL is where is where we delve into the question again. What is coping? So coping is a theoretical concept concerned with with the multifaceted phenomenon of how humans think, feel and act in stressful situations. There's works by Linkvist and team in 1998, Linkvist and team in 2004, Linkvist and Soden in 1998. Coping is a strategy that involves in the context of situation or a condition that is personally taxing or exceeding an individual's resources for stress. And exploring this is an important considering many young people feel less positive about their own qualities, or can be affected by changes to environment, placing them at higher risk of poorer psychological or psychosocial functioning. Coping research can be more informative if more is known about an individual's approach to thoughts and actions in specific contexts. So there is a need to identify coping strategies to gain a better view about how young people connect to the world around them. So aligned to this, so in and around this now, to highlight some aspects pertaining to the previous audio podcast, in around that, where there was a sort of an overview around different sort of coping sort of questionnaires or surveys that have been implemented in different sort of different sort of research aligned to coping research. This sort of audio podcast now will sort of highlight sort of a justification for the use of the ways or the ways of coping survey or questionnaire. Um, so um, the the ways of coping the ways of coping survey, or the ways, was initially originated by authors or experts, Richard Lazarus and Susan Folkman in 1984, in the 1980s and in 1984, and where they where their works looked at sort of stress appraisal and stress appraisal and coping. Um, the ways of coping is designed to assess the thoughts and actions individuals use to cope with the stressful encounters of everyday living. The ways measures coping strategies and not dispositions or styles. And this is important because styles relate to distinctive manner or custom of behaving or conducting oneself, or a particular way in which something is done, created, or performed. Understanding strategy is more important because it surrounds a plan of action designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Understanding coping strategies also relates to a series of methods or plans chosen to bring about a desired future, such as achievement of a goal, or a solution to a problem. The ways is thus a standardized sort of questionnaire or survey, and researchers have used it to investigate the components and determinants of coping in a variety of investigations. The further rationale for implementing the ways of coping survey is: number one, because it is a validated coping survey or questionnaire. Number two, the survey can be used to investigate coping resources in a variety in various populations, and to provide an in-depth insight into coping mechanisms. Number three, the ways of coping survey is a suitable questionnaire or survey to implement in a young population. And number 4, the ways helps to investigate coping under 8 sub entities, and these sub entities can aid researchers and investigators understand what strategies are apparent in a particular population. The ways um, also the ways also allows the determination of coping strategies, and not again of coping strategies, and again not dispositions or styles, or styles. And number 6, in several investigations, researchers have used the ways to investigate the components of determinants of coping. There's works by Leah Capolo and team in 2008, Woj Tasiak in 2000, and retrospectively in 2005. Number 7, the ways of coping, or the ways can a decision about whether a coping process is good coping or not. Number 8, the ways is reliable as well as appropriate in a population where there is limited information regarding coping strategies. And number 9, it can be completed. It can be completed by participants in around 10 minutes, 10 minutes or up to 10 minutes or up to 15 minutes. Further background, further context in around the ways of coping survey can be determined through the works of Lazarus and Folkman in around their works published around stress appraisal and coping in a Springer publication. So that provides sort of hopefully provides an overview. This has been an audio podcast aligned to the ZtormTronix case review v.3. This audio podcast highlights sort of an overview in around the justification for implementing, or for why the ways of coping survey could the ways of survey the ways survey or the ways of coping survey can be implemented in works aligned to nephrology, and how do young people with chronic kidney disease (CKD) cope, and what are the experiences between pediatric renal services and adult renal care. This has been an audio podcast aligned to Storm Robotics RFPB, and this has been another Storm Robotics production. Thank you for tuning in.